In this video, I'm going to be breaking down some of the most common questions that I get asked, not just regarding Turo, but regarding my Turo fleet specifically, including things like why I don't have investors, why I don't take on debt, and more. So let's get started. But before we dive into that, I do want to let you guys know that our last sale of the season is currently live and it ends on January 25th. So if you've been thinking about buying the Car Sharing Masterclass and you've been on the fence, now is your last chance for a very long time to get a discount on that purchase. And you can use the code NEWYEAR215, that's NEWYEAR215, to get $215 off the course. The link is down in the description below. Now, the Car Sharing Masterclass is a full A to Z course that teaches you everything that you need to know about starting and scaling a car sharing fleet with the exact same business model that I use. In the course, we go over everything from how to find and buy the right cars at the right price, how to conduct a thorough PPI, as well as how to conduct basic maintenance on your Turo vehicles. We also go over operations, like how to turn your fleet into a semi-passive fleet by using remote key exchanges, automated messages, and more. And of course, we'll talk about damage claims and how you can navigate the damage claim process in order to cut your losses and in many cases actually profit off of damage that occurs to your car. Not only that, but we offer co-hosting contract templates. We're introducing a direct rental segment of the course later on this year, and you also get access to a private Discord and our monthly Zoom calls whenever you're a course member. Again, you can learn more by clicking on the link down in the description below, and you can use the code NEWYEAR215 to get $215 off. Now, as we sit here today, and I am currently recording this video on December 27th, 2024, I have 29 cars in my fleet, with some of the most recent purchases being a 2013 Mazda 5, which replaced my 2010 Mazda 5, which was totaled, a 2013 smart car I bought in September, a 2017 Lincoln MKC, which was added to the fleet in early December, and a 2020 Honda Odyssey, which was added right before Christmas. The 2017 Lincoln MKC was actually added as a favor to my dad, who had to buy a new engine for this car, and he wants to use Turo to recoup some of the costs of that engine. And so while not really one of our cars yet, we most likely will be buying this from my dad in the future. This puts us at 29 cars total, 33 if we include our personal cars, but we all know that doesn't really count. Now, I get asked all the time why I pay for my cars in cash. And for those of you who are maybe new to the channel or maybe just aren't aware of this, at any given time, about 99 or I guess really like 95% of my fleet is paid for outright and was purchased in cash at the point of purchase. Last year, we did buy a 2018 Lincoln Navigator, which we financed. We bought this car for tax reasons and also because we thought adding an XL SUV to the fleet would be a value add, and we paid off that car in full last month. And this month we added a 2020 Honda Odyssey. This was also for tax reasons and because we don't have a full-size minivan in the fleet. The Honda Odyssey is financed, and it's the only car in our fleet that is financed as of right now. The truth is, the reason why we don't finance cars for our Turo fleet really came because of a necessity. Whenever I started Turo, I was in my early 20s, and at the time I was going through some pretty bad financial hardships that ultimately were leading me closer and closer to financial bankruptcy. My credit score is absolutely trash, so whenever I went to go buy my first couple of cars to add to my Turo fleet, I had to buy them in cash because the financing and interest rate that I would have gotten on those cars would have been absolutely terrible, and it would have been a bad decision to finance that type of purchase. That's if I even could get approved. And I've continued to buy cash cars today is because it's what I've built my business and my wealth on, and I'm sort of in the camp of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. My husband HP and I have done extremely well in the high margin, low cash car business model, and while this isn't a business model that works for everyone, it does work for us. And so we have started incorporating nicer cars into our fleet. For example, we most likely will finance one nicer car per year for tax reasons, as long as our CPA encourages us to do so. We ultimately aren't going to veer too much from the business model that has given us so much success over years. And so the truth is, the reason why we started buying cars in cash is because we really had no other choice, and the reason why we've continued to do it over the last 8 years is because it works for us, so why would we change it? We have a low debt, low operational cost business, and it gives us the comfort in doing things like hiring salaried employees, which was an investment I took very seriously, as well as to take on debt elsewhere when appropriate. Next is co-hosting. I get asked all the time why I don't co-host vehicles, and I also get reached out to all the time by people asking me to co-host their cars. Now again, for those of you who don't know, my husband and I own our entire fleet, with the exception of the new MKC, which is my dad's. Our entire fleet is owned by us. We don't have any investors for any part of our business. And the reason why we don't co-host and why we don't take on investors is because we just don't really need to. Whenever we first started with Turo, co-hosting wasn't really a thing. Now, I'm sure it probably was a thing, but it definitely wasn't as widely known and as widely talked about as it is today. So the idea of getting co-hosts, getting investors, and running other people's cars on Turo was literally something that never crossed my mind until after I started making YouTube videos about Turo. But by this point, I was already making great money and we weren't really wanting to buy more cars than we were able to on our own, so the idea of taking on investor funds to buy more cars, it just didn't make sense for us. Now, I do sometimes wonder what could have been if we did take on investors and co-hosts either earlier on in our career or earlier on in my YouTube career. And so while I do wonder what could have been, I ultimately do not regret the decision to not take on co-hosts or investors, and I think the idea of owning all of our cars outright was definitely the right decision for us. The next question that I get asked frequently is, when is the best time to hire an employee? I get asked this question all the time, and truthfully, this is a really difficult question to answer. Currently, when it comes to Turo, I have 3 people employed by my Turo business: myself, my husband HP, and our employee Todd. But my arrangement with both myself and my husband, as well as our employee Todd, is a bit different than what the average Turo host will find because of the fact that me and my husband own multiple businesses. I work a corporate job, we own a production company, we of course have our Turo and car sharing business, and we also have a few miscellaneous other projects that we're constantly working on as well. And so all 3 of us work in all of these different businesses and projects, with the exception of my corporate job, which is something I just do. Todd, for example, is technically employed by the Turo fleet, but he actually does have a hand in everything, as does HP and of course myself. When I first started Turo, I managed my fleet basically by myself until I reached 10 cars. This was in addition to freelancing and also starting my Turo career, and I did all of these things simultaneously until the summer of 2021, where my then boyfriend, now husband, quit his job at the dealership to work for our Turo fleet full-time. This allowed for me to step back from the day-to-day of the Turo fleet and focus on other projects, and he then handled the day-to-day operations of the cars. And he did this on his own until we reached about 21 cars. Then about a year and a half after my husband quit his job at his dealership, we hired part-time help to help my husband. And now at 29 cars, we have a full-time employee. But I've said this in past videos, but I also tell people this whenever they ask me this question about hiring staff and the timing of it all, is that if I didn't work a corporate job or if my husband and I didn't have multiple other businesses, I feel extremely confidently that the 2 of us could manage our Turo fleet on our own, probably up to about 40 or 50 cars. I think that we could do this just the 2 of us without an employee. While we wouldn't have a ton of work-life balance and it definitely would be stretching us thin, I think we absolutely could do it if we really wanted to. And I think for most people, you can manage a 15 to 20 car Turo fleet on your own with only one person if it's your full-time job, and you can manage anywhere between 20 and maybe 50 cars with up to 2 people if it's their full-time jobs. But there are so many factors that come into play on whether or not this is actually feasible, like whether or not these people are doing Turo full-time, whether they have other side gigs or businesses, if someone has kids, if somebody likes to travel or go out of town or have a social life. There really isn't a one-size-fits-all for when and how you should hire an employee, but these are some of the things that I know I kept in mind. But there you have it, some of the most frequently asked questions regarding my own Turo fleet. Remember, you can check out the Car Sharing Masterclass. You can use the code NEWYEAR215 to get $215 off that purchase. Like always, you guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, comments, if you have anything to add, I would love to hear it, so make sure to leave a comment down below. And while you guys are at it, make sure to hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit the notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.